Imagine you have a folder on your computer, and the moment someone drops a new Excel file into it, Python automatically detects it, processes it, and saves the output, all without you clicking a single button. There are several ways to build this kind of automation. We can use Watchdog for real-time monitoring, Windows Task Scheduler for scheduled processing, or even run it as a Windows service for production environment. In this video, we'll start with the Watchdog approach because it's simple, real-time, and perfect foundation for building more advanced automation later. And in my future videos, we can use Windows Task Scheduler and Windows Services. So let's get started. So let's open the VS Code first and create a new file, which is main.py. So first, let's import the libraries we need. We'll use time to keep our program running, shutil to move files, path for working with files and folders, and finally Watchdog to monitor our folder for new files. So import time, import shutil, and then path. From pathlib import path, and we need some command from Watchdog library. So from Watchdog .observer import observer, which will observe the files whether any new file has been created in the folder or not. And second one is from Watchdog.events import pattern matching event handler. So now our libraries has been imported. Next, let's define our incoming and processed folder. I'm using path here because it makes working with file and folder path very simple. So define a folder incoming, and because we have imported this path command, so we will use this path and give the folder name incoming. And then we'll create processed folder, processed, and again path processed. So we have defined our folders, and now we will use command mkdir. Will automatically create these folders if they don't already exist. So incoming dot mkdir, and if exist it doesn't create a folder, and if doesn't exist it will create a folder. So same for processed as well. If process folder is not available, it will create the process folder. Exist okay equals to true. So now we have defined our folders where we put the files and where the file will get moved to processed folders. So we have defined the folders. Now let's create our process file function. So this will be a function which will run wherever a new Excel file is detected in incoming folder. So the event gives us the path of newly created file. So we'll convert that into a path object and print the file name. So if you don't understand what I have just said, just be with me and you will get understand. So we will create a function def process file, and we'll pass this event. Now file equals to path, and then event dot src underscore path. So it will give us the path of the file which was created. And next we will print new file has been created. And if we also want to print the path, so we can use this f here, and we can use file dot file name, file dot name. Okay, and then we can either use wait time dot sleep for 2 seconds, maybe 2 seconds is fine. So what this function will do, whenever a new file is created in incoming folder, it will just print the path of that file. So for this example, we'll simply move the detected file from incoming to processed. But this is actually the most important part of our program, because instead of just moving the file, we can call any automation here. So as I said, we could clean the Excel file, generate the report, convert to a PDF, send an email as well, or run the entire workflow. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do, you can mention those steps in process file function. So for this function, we are just moving. So we have got the path, and we have printed the file path, and then we have applied 2 seconds of wait time, and then we will use shutil.move. This library we use to play with files and folders. To move files, we will use shutil library. So we will move the file to processed folder, which we have already defined, and inside processed folder we will use the same file.name. So it will move the file, and when after that we can also print the message again, file has been moved or processed, because we are not processing anything, so we just printed file has been moved. So that's it for this function. So now our function has been created. What we need to do, if the file is created, we have defined our incoming and output processed folder. So now we just need to add a watcher here, so which will observe whether a new file has been created. So now we need to tell Watchdog what kind of files we are interested in. I mean, we just need to process XLSX file. So we'll create a pattern matching event handler and use a star.xlsx, which means we are only watching the XLSX file. So let me write the command, create a handler here, handler equals to, we will use the same command which we have imported from watchdog.events. So handler equals to pattern matching event handler. This is event handler which will look for the XLSX file or any file which we will mention in the patterns. So patterns equals to all.xlsx file. So as you already know, we can mention any extension. If we want to check for pptx file, we can mention that, but we are playing with the xlsx files only, so we have updated xlsx. And then we need to ignore directories. Ignore directories equals to true. So it will ignore the directory, it will look only for files. So we have created the handler. Next we'll connect the onCreated event to our process file function. So what does it mean? When the file is created, this function will get called. So handler.onCreated, whenever a file is created, what it needs to do. So onCreated, the function which we will call is processed file. So now we have created a function, we have created a handler which will check for the files, and when file is available, it will call the processed file function. So I think this is pretty simple to understand. There's nothing too complex. So all good so far. Now we'll create an observer, the actual observer which will observe the file, whether file has been created in that folder or pasted in that folder or not. You can simply think of the observer as the component that's actually watching the folder. So we will use observer, which we have imported from watchdog.observers, and observer equals to new observer or observers. So we have created an object of this class. So next we will tell the observer which folder to monitor and which handler it should use. So it will ask two things. One is handler, what it needs to do, and one is folder, where it needs to check. So observer dot schedule. So handler and the folder is str incoming folder. And then we can also give one more argument here, recursive equals to false. It means it will not check the XLSX file inside the subfolders, it will only check in the main folder. So we have created the observer, and now it should start watching the folder. We just need to run the program. But before that, I also want to add one thing, because there is a problem. If our Python program ends, the observer will stop as well, because if it reaches to this line, it will stop. The program will get stopped. So we'll use a simple loop to keep the program running, and we'll sleep for 1 second on every iteration, and it will keep running and it will keep observing the folder. So we'll use it try, and we will run a endless loop here while true, and time dot sleep and 1, and then except keyboard interrupt observer dot stop. So it means it will keep running. It will take a pause of 1 second and keep this program running. And if we stop through keyboard event, if we stop it using any keyboard button, it will get stopped only then. Else it will keep running and keep checking the folder. So this is how observers work. So let's run the program and check if it works or not. So I'm opening this folder. So I'm putting it side by side. So let's run this program. Okay, before that I forgot just one thing. We also need to use observer dot join. We are using this because the observer runs in a separate thread. Join basically means wait for that observer thread to finish properly before closing the program. So we need to use this observer.join. So I think this is done now, and we just need to run the program. So let's run it. So program is running now, and if you can see in the right window, it has created two folders, incoming and process. So let me open this incoming, this is blank, and let me open this process folder as well, this is also blank. So let me create a new file inside incoming folder, and we'll wait and see if that's working. So I'm right clicking in this inside this folder and new Microsoft Excel worksheet. So worksheet has been created. So let's wait for a few seconds and see if the Watchdog working correctly or not. Okay, so the file was not moved. So let's check the code. Okay, we have created the observer but have never started that observer. So let me stop the program and start the observer as well. Observer.start. So now it will start observing, and file is still inside incoming folder. So let's start the program again, and it should move the file right after running the program. Let's run it again. Okay, so let me check why it's still not moving. So the program seems correct. Okay, so I think it's not working because the file already created. So let's create a new file and see if it works. So new Microsoft Excel worksheet. So we created a new file and wait for a few seconds. Yes, so new file has been moved. So Watcher works for new files, not for existing files. So we can delete the existing file, and if we create one more file here, which is an Excel file, it will move to yes, this is also gone. So if we create a text file, it should not work. So let's test that thing as well. So create a text file and wait for a few seconds, and it will not move. Okay, so this file is not moving, which is fine. So our program is working fine. So it's saying new file detected and completed. This file was moved. Okay, so let me check the output folder, processed folder actually. So let's check the process folder. So you can see there are two files which were moved from the incoming folder automatically. So now moving a file is not particularly exciting by itself. As I already mentioned, the real power is when what we put inside our process file function, which is this function. So instead of moving the file immediately, we could call the Excel data cleaning script from previous video, or we could generate a PDF or report, send the report through Outlook, extract data from an invoice, and Watchdog basically becomes the trigger that starts our automation automatically whenever a new file arrives. So you can put this script or schedule this script on a server or wherever you want, or in your local system, and use a task scheduler. When your system starts, this script will start automatically and watch for any newly created file. So now we have a folder that automatically reacts whenever a new file arrives. So there is one limitation with this approach: our Python program needs to keep running. For a more production style setup, we can use Windows Task Scheduler, as I already mentioned. We'll explore those approaches separately. For now, you have a reusable real-time trigger that you can connect to almost any Python automation. So thanks for watching, and if you think this video is helpful for you, you can like or subscribe this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.